there's no oversight, and there's no transparency.
Political bear nation ready to dive, where opinions spark and the debates thrive. Hold on tight.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Brown Chubby Bear for Political Bear Nation. I'm going to be honest with you. This script was hard to start. Normally, once I'm done researching a topic, I'm hyped up and I'm ready to hammer out a script. But this time, I didn't even know where to begin. See, there's a tech company most of you have never even heard of, but it's running the entire U.S. military. I know, it sounds like I'm gonna start screaming about the frigging Illuminati. But this channel is about facts, it's about policy, and it's about making sure a Democrat wins in 2028. So let's start with the facts about Palantir Technologies.
Palantir supports our fighting forces. We share one mission: win.
Palantir is one of the most powerful companies on Earth, but unless you follow tech stocks or read the news daily, you probably never even heard of them. Before we get into what Palantir is doing now, we need to understand where it came from. It was born out of fear. After 9/11, the U.S. government went looking for ways to stop the next big attack.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning
that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that.
I can hear you! I can hear you! The rest of the world hears you! And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
And that's where Palantir comes in. And guess who helped fund it? The CIA. It was founded in 2003 by Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Stephen Cohen, and a few others. What was its mission? To build software that takes massive amounts of data from government records, surveillance, social media, you name it, and merge it all into one master system where the important information sits right in front of you, ready for you to act on. They called it Palantir after Palantiri, the seeing stones from Lord of the Rings that let you spy across time and space. Yes, they were, and still are, big nerds. It's actually one of the only things I like about the founders. Palantir Gotham is the flagship intelligence and defense tool, specifically designed for militaries and counterterrorism analysts. It's used by the U.S. Department of Defense, intelligence agencies, and law enforcement. Think of it as Google Maps meets Minority Report for the military, except it isn't fiction. It's real, and it's been helping our military for well over a decade. Let's say you're trying to track a high-value target in a war zone. You've got 15 different streams of intelligence: satellite images, phone pings, surveillance footage, agent reports. Normally, it would take days, maybe even weeks to analyze all that information. Gotham can do it in minutes, and in many cases, even in real time. It cross-references all the individual data streams and spits out one comprehensive picture: where the suspect was last seen, where the vehicle they were using was, who they met with, and where they're likely going to be headed next. It's a real-time AI-enhanced surveillance system, and it works. It doesn't just analyze where a suspect has been, it predicts where they're likely to go next. In Iraq and Afghanistan, Palantir helped track and dismantle insurgent networks. The platform enabled analysts to connect data points from various sources like field reports, intercepted communications, and even social media to identify and find out where the insurgents were. There were even widespread rumors that Palantir was involved in the operation that led to the killing of Osama bin Laden.
Did your company help to track and kill Osama bin Laden?
You know, we can never. I'll tell you, the closest thing to an answer is there are when you look at when you open the paper and look in the news about these kind of things, there's a 2/3 chance, depending on the country involved, that somehow my company was involved.
More recently, Palantir has been playing a crucial role in Ukraine's defense against Russia. It's helping commanders identify and strike targets faster by shortening the kill chain. More on the kill chain later. But here's the moral dilemma. While I support any technology that helps our men and women in uniform, the same system that is being used to hunt terrorists overseas is now being deployed right here at home. Today, it's tracking undocumented immigrants. Tomorrow, who knows? We've already seen how far Trump is willing to go, gutting civil liberties to punish people who criticize him or oppose his agenda. So who's next? Protesters? Journalists? Political dissenters? You? Me? In 2011, the LAPD partnered with Palantir to launch Operation Laser, a program that created chronic offender lists and high-risk surveillance zones using Palantir's predictive analysis. It was as close to Minority Report as you could possibly get. The system disproportionately targeted Black and Latino neighborhoods by relying on biased data and flawed assumptions. The software looked at existing police data and noticed more arrests in communities of color. So it predicted more crime would happen there. That led to more patrols in that same neighborhood, which of course led to more arrests, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you look, the more you find. The more you find, the more the system confirms its own bias. Their technology was obviously more complex than that, but at its core, that's what was happening. And after 8 years, Laser was shut down in 2019 for violating civil rights. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Around the same time, Vice got a hold of Palantir's confidential user manual for cops, and what they covered was disturbing to say the least. The software didn't let police just search names and license plates. It let them cross-reference property records, arrest histories, and even casual relationships like who shared a phone number, who lived at the same address, or who got tagged in the same Facebook or Instagram photo. All of it can be used to build a digital profile on someone. No warrant, no judge, and no way for the person being tracked to even know it was happening. This wasn't just surveillance, it's what they call dragnet profiling, and it raised real constitutional red flags. The Fourth Amendment was just basically ignored. Due process tossed aside. Palantir handed local cops the tools to build secret dossiers on people, not for what they did, but for who they knew and where they lived. As the backlash grew after Laser collapsed and the Vice expose spread, some cities backed out, but others quietly signed up. It's one thing when the military uses this kind of tech abroad, but now it's here, and what most people don't realize is that Palantir has been feeding surveillance data to the government for years. Instead of slowing down, they've been expanding. Palantir's software powers ICE's investigative case management system. It pulls data from immigration databases, financial records, license plate scanners, and even social media, and builds a profile that ICE agents can use to track people in real time. It's not just tracking individuals, it maps entire social networks, friends, coworkers, neighbors, like throwing a fishing net into the ocean to catch one fish and pulling in everything else by accident. Except here, it's people, and many of them are innocent American civilians. You could be flagged for investigation if you've ever shared an address with someone ICE is targeting. Have you ever parked in the same garage or got tagged in the same group photo on Facebook? You won't get notified. There's no court hearing. There's no opportunity to challenge this data. People are arrested, detained, and even deported based on outdated, inaccurate, or incomplete information. There's no oversight and there's no transparency. In 2019, in one of the largest workplace immigration raids in U.S. history, ICE arrested 680 workers across several food processing plants in Mississippi. The raids were facilitated by Palantir's Falcon tip line and analytics software, which processed public tips and enabled agents to analyze personal data rapidly. Palantir was separating families. There was no way for CEO Alex Karp to deny anymore. He took a hard stand when 200 employees were upset with how the technology was being used, and they threatened to walk.
My house has been protested for many months, almost every day. Our offices have been protested. Many Palantirians protested against it internally. Some people were so upset by it that they left. These are very hard decisions.
Karp knew that if he pissed off the government that was just starting to trust his technology, he could be cut off from future contracts. Instead of listening to the concerns of his employees, he renewed an ICE contract and defended the program at company town hall meetings. He even bashed Google for backing out of the government contract and suggested Palantir would not do the same.
Silicon Valley is creating micro communities that break the consensus of larger society, while simultaneously telling the average American, I will not support your defense needs, and then selling their products to countries that are adversarial to America. That is a loser position. It is not intelligible. It is not intelligible to the average person. It's academically not sustainable. And I am very happy that we're not on that side of the debate.
And that was your intro to Alex Karp, Palantir CEO, the guy who ignored his own employees, doubled down on ICE deportations, and bragged to investors that his company occasionally kills people.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
The weird thing is Karp holds a PhD in philosophy from a school in Frankfurt. He's definitely not your typical defense executive, especially when he's practicing Tai Chi, leading meditation sessions for his employees, or working from a barn in New Hampshire. By the way, remember I told you we'd get to something called the kill chain?
You have created the system which you call kill chain.
Privately. Publicly, the lawyers have some innocuous
So
something like tech for the amelioration of unwanted blah blah blah. some term we're supposed to use.
Okay, let's
For me, it's the kill chain.
kill chain sounds good.
Well, basically, it's a military concept that refers to the steps involved in identifying, tracking, targeting, and eliminating a threat. That's how Palantir is being used to assist Ukraine in the war. It fuses battlefield data, satellite imagery, drone footage, and recon reports into an interactive real-time map. Commanders use it to track Russian movements, predict supply lines, target infrastructure. This drastically shortens the time between spotting an enemy and launching a strike. That's what shortening the kill chain means, and Palantir's business model is about enhancing and automating this process, especially in the context of modern, data-driven warfare. I'm happy that it's helping Ukraine, but at the same time, it's being used at home to surveil immigrants and protesters. We're already seeing facial recognition tools being used by law enforcement to identify peaceful Gaza protesters. Palantir could easily be used, should Trump decide, to go after other political dissidents as well. And as I was actually editing this video, the New York Times dropped a bombshell. Trump is already asking Palantir to help execute his March executive order requiring federal agencies to share data. This is no longer a warning. This is happening. The Trump administration has directed intelligence agencies to utilize spy satellites for monitoring the U.S.-Mexico border. While this is intended to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking, this move blurs the line between foreign and domestic surveillance, prompting legal questions and ethical questions about the surveillance of U.S. citizens. A few weeks ago, 13 former employees signed a letter urging Palantir to stop working with Donald Trump. Linda, who was a Palantir engineer until last year, said the problem was not with the company's technology, but with how the Trump administration intended to use it. Data that is collected for one reason should not be repurposed for other uses. Combining all that data, even with the noblest of intentions, significantly increases the risk of misuse. Last week, a Palantir strategist, Brianna Catherine Martin, posted on LinkedIn she was departing the company because of its expanded work with ICE. She said, "For most of my time here, I found the way that Palantir grappled with the weight of our capabilities to be refreshing, transparent, and conscionable. This has changed for me over the past few months. For me, this is a red line I won't redraw." Palantir isn't the end of this story. In fact, it's just the beginning. Because when you follow the money, the ideology, and the contracts, you end up staring straight at one man. Behind Palantir is Peter Thiel, a billionaire who doesn't just want to disrupt markets, he wants to disrupt democracy. You have probably heard Peter Thiel's name before. He co-founded PayPal alongside Elon Musk and lots of other tech bros. The group that started PayPal and later sold it to eBay has been called the PayPal Mafia. There's even been books written about them. And the people involved went on to create LinkedIn, SpaceX, Affirm, YouTube, Yelp, and other tech-related businesses. Peter Thiel was considered the Don of PayPal Mafia. At the time, Elon Musk had launched X.com. Yeah, he's been obsessed with that letter since like forever. But they were both trying to dominate the same space, online payments. So in 2000, they merged into what we now know as PayPal. Musk became CEO, but just briefly. He was so relentless and so annoying, especially about wanting to rebrand the entire company as X, that Thiel and the entire board ousted him while he was on his honeymoon. Thiel replaced him as CEO. When PayPal finally sold to eBay, Peter Thiel walked away with $55 million and Musk walked away with $165 million. And he never let go of that obsession with the letter X. We already know what Elon did with that money. So what did Peter Thiel do? Peter Thiel used that money to build a tech empire. He launched Palantir in 2003 with Alex Karp and others. He also made early investments in Facebook, Airbnb, and SpaceX. And then he got personal. He secretly funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker Media for publishing a sex tape between Hulk Hogan and his friend's wife. This was an act of pure revenge.
What's Thiel's beef with Gawker? Well, back in 2007, Gawker's Valleywag blog announced that he was gay.
Since then, he's spent over $200 million funding Republican campaigns and far-right causes. His biggest investment to date, JD Vance. Thiel met Vance at Yale in 2011. Thiel gave Vance a job at his venture capital firm, Mithil Capital, and then later backed JD's own venture fund, Nara Capital. By the way, both company names are references to Lord of the Rings as well, same as Palantir. Nara was one of the 3 rings of power in the Lord of the Rings, and Mithril is a rare silver-like metal from Lord of the Rings as well. Great little nerdy Easter eggs, but it wasn't their love of J.R.R. Tolkien that brought them together. Both JD and Thiel disliked what they considered excess immigration. They both believed tech companies should not curate online speech, and they both embraced Trump's nationalist ideology. Thiel spent $15 million to back JD's Senate run, the largest single Senate donation in U.S. history. He also helped Vance secure Trump's endorsement by smoothing over past tensions. You know, small tensions like calling Donald Trump America's Hitler.
I will be a vice president who never forgets where he came from.
I never liked him.
I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I'm definitely not going to vote for Trump.
My current plan is to vote either third party, or as I joke to my wife, I might write in my dog.
What Trump is just another opioid. At the end of the day, the problems are still going to be there.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
There is definitely an element of Donald Trump support that has its basis in racism or xenophobia.
I agree with you on Trump. I don't think he actually cares about folks.
I think that he's leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most about Trump. Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Thiel brought JD to Mar-a-Lago and sold him to Trump as the future of America First politics. Trump literally made the guy that called him America's Hitler the vice president of the United States. That is the kind of power Thiel has over Trump. Thiel's connection with Vance goes even deeper than JD Vance digging through couch cushions. Only this time, he's not looking for spare change or a soft place to get weird. He's after dark money, and that's why he co-founded the Rockbridge Network, a dark money political machine funded by Thiel and Rebecca Mercer, the woman behind Cambridge Analytica, who stole data from 87 million Facebook users to manipulate voters in 2016. So why does this matter? Because Thiel's political philosophy is terrifying. He has Donald Trump's ear, and he is the co-founder of a company that is literally in bed with every government surveillance network in the United States and even a few around the world. Peter Thiel said publicly that he does not believe freedom and democracy are compatible. Here's the full quote. I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. Since 1920, the vast increase in welfare beneficiaries and the extension of the franchise to women have rendered capitalist democracy into an oxymoron. Want to go live on a benevolent dictatorship on the sea? Well, Peter Thiel invested in a 501c3 nonprofit called the Seasteading Institute, so you can.
The Seasteading Institute believes that innovative political systems could serve humanity better than governments do today. That's why we work to enable seasteads, floating cities which will give people opportunities to peacefully test new ideas about living together. The most successful will become thriving new societies, inspiring change around the world.
The Seasteading Institute promotes colonizing its oceans to create a libertarian micronation free of democratic control. Seriously, I'm not kidding. He talks all about this in his manifesto-like essay, that was published by the libertarian think tank, the Cato Institute. It's a short read. I'll include a link to it in the description below. He thinks the world is unfair to libertarian billionaires, and he thinks the only solution is to colonize the space and the sea, and he's literally investing millions or even billions of dollars trying to make that happen. This is the guy shaping how software embedded inside the CIA, the DoD, ICE, the IRS actually thinks. Now here's the thing about Palantir. It's not alone. Yes, it's probably one of the most important tech companies the US government is currently working with, and they are aiming to be the operating system of the Department of Defense. But as important as Palantir has become, it is not the only Peter Thiel tech company entrenched in the United States government. Thiel is also invested in SpaceX, an Elon Musk company. The company recently secured a $5.9 billion contract from the US government to launch military satellites into space over the next 4 years. Additionally, SpaceX has become tasked with decommissioning the International Space Station in the coming decade, cementing its position as a primary government aerospace partner. Thiel also invested in Anduril, a defense company co-founded by Palmer Luckey, the guy who built Oculus and sold it to Facebook for $2 billion. Anduril builds autonomous weapons, border surveillance towers, and drone defense systems. You may have seen them on 60 Minutes a few weeks ago. They recently secured a substantial $642 million contract from the US Navy for counter-drone technology deployment. Just a month ago, the Air Force selected Anduril to advance to the next phase of the Collaborative Combat Aircraft program, using the Fury Unmanned Combat Aerial Vehicle, which aims to integrate autonomous drones with manned fighter jets like the F-35. Thought I was done? Nope. Thiel has also invested in Varda Space Industries. They have secured important contracts with the Air Force Research Laboratory for hypersonic research applications. The Air Force awarded Varda a 4-year, $48 million contract to continue testing military payload reentry through the Prometheus program. And I'm still not done. Then there's BlackSky Technology, part of Peter Thiel's Mythal Capital portfolio, and it has become a go-to for intelligence agencies thanks to its advanced satellite surveillance. Their system delivers high-frequency, low-latency Gen 2 imagery, meaning they can update images of the same location up to 15 times a day. That's near real-time eyes in the sky, perfect for rapid surveillance and analysis. That's 5 separate companies where Thiel has a hand in the national security and domestic security of the United States of America. He's like an evil Captain Planet, aka Captain Pollution. Peter Thiel has assembled a tech bro supergroup made up of SpaceX, Palantir, and Anduril. Together, they're working on a project called the Golden Dome, an integrated satellite-based missile shield that combines Elon Musk's SpaceX satellites, Palantir's AI-driven data systems, and Anduril's autonomous defense tech. Now, Trump wants the Golden Dome done and implemented in 3 years. That's just insane. There's no way that's going to happen. There hasn't been any full-scale testing for AI reliability, and Palantir has already had false positives in the field, ones that led to innocent people dying. In Gaza, it assigned risk scores to individuals based on surveillance data, authorizing airstrikes with almost no human oversight. The system had a 10% false positive rate and was linked to the deaths of over 200 aid workers, including 7 World Central Kitchen staff in April of 2024. The projected cost of this Golden Dome system is $175 billion, roughly 25% of the entire 2023 U.S. defense budget. That's money we could spend on healthcare infrastructure or actual military readiness. And thanks to Elon Musk, who is pushing a subscription model, we might be locked in to massive, long-term payments with no actual ownership or oversight. But Trump is all in, and Peter Thiel has his ear. I mean, if Thiel can convince Trump to pick Vance, who once called him America's Hitler, to be vice president, what can't Thiel talk him into? Now, Peter Thiel may not be the richest man in the world, but he just might be the most dangerous. At least 14 officials in Trump's administration have direct ties and therefore loyalty to Peter Thiel. And to really make sense of how much influence Peter Thiel has inside the US government, I turn to AI. I've been talking about AI throughout this video, and honestly, the web of connections was so complex, I needed help just to see it visually so I could actually understand it. And the best part, you could explore it yourself. The interactive visualization is linked in the YouTube description. You can see all of the relevant connections with Peter Thiel in the middle and everyone in the government that is loyal to him, with the 4 major contracts his companies have from the American government. So if you click on any name, you can quickly see what connections they have. So let's start with David Sachs. If you click on him, you can actually see the fast facts right here. David Sachs is Trump's AI and crypto czar. He was the COO of PayPal and therefore part of the PayPal Mafia gang. In fact, you can click on PayPal Mafia above and just see the people that are inside the government that used to be part of the PayPal Mafia. Let's go back to all connections. David Sachs, what's important is that he has actually invested in SpaceX and Palantir himself. So you have someone that is Trump's AI and crypto czar that's creating policy that directly benefits him as well as Peter Thiel himself. Let's continue. As you go through this visualization, you can click on government officials and you can see just how many people are in Peter Thiel's zone of loyalty. Let's look at Jim O'Neill. Jim O'Neill is the Deputy Health and Services Secretary and former CEO of the Thiel Foundation. You can see those connections here. Thiel wants him to promote privatization and reduce FDA oversight, and he will, because he's also an investor, just like Peter Thiel. So he has a conflict of interest when he's creating these policies. Peter Thiel has not only installed loyalists, but people that are creating policies that really benefit themselves. Jacob Helberg, he's the Undersecretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and Environment. He married PayPal Mafia alum Keith Robois, and Jacob was actually an advisor at Palantir. So, as Undersecretary, Helberg helps shape U.S. economic diplomacy, especially around technology, exports, cybersecurity, and digital infrastructure. That gives him leverage to push for Palantir's AI and surveillance platform. Let's continue. Michael Kratsios. He is the Assistant to the President for Science and Technology and former Chief of Staff at Thiel Capital, and now heads the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, where he pushes deregulation that benefits firms like Palantir and Scale AI. Oh, that's not only another Peter Thiel-backed company, that's a company that Michael himself is invested in. In February, Scale AI signed a 5-year deal with the Qatari government to modernize public services using AI tools like predictive analysis and automation. A month later, the company secured a U.S. Department of Defense contract to lead the Thunder Forge project. And you could keep going here. Look how many people have come from Palantir. Akash Baba, Anthony Giannancesco, George Cooper, all used to work at Palantir but now work at Doge. We're not even talking about the direct relationship that he has with JD Vance. Remember, Peter Thiel hired JD Vance and then later invested in his VC fund, and JD Vance still has shares in Anduril Industries. That's right, Anduril Industries just got large contracts just a few weeks ago. Again, I urge you to go ahead and just play with the tool. Peter Thiel is not just a tech investor, he's an architect of a new kind of power, one that blends surveillance, warfare, deregulation, and fascism all together. And we need to start paying attention. All this time, I thought the richest man in the world was the real threat, but it's not him. It's the guy with just a fraction of Elon's wealth, who's actually the man behind the curtain. And in 2026, we'll have to put Democrats in Congress that can actually pass legislation to properly oversee all of this new military tech. And in 2028, we have to put a Democrat in the White House, because Peter Thiel does not need Donald Trump in power. He just needs someone he can manipulate. And if the Democrats don't win the White House, he'll have another Peter Thiel puppet. Check out my 5-part series on the Democratic nominees who can win in 2028. The link to the playlist is in the description below and coming up next in the end card. To my members, thank you. Your support keeps us content alive. Until next time, this is Brown Chubby Bear for Political Bear Nation.
Stories collide, political bears on an untamed ride, roaring through truths, the left and the right, setting the stage for a wild insight.